Hi, everybody. It's been a while, but there's something serious that I need to pass on. Okay. Um, Greenland is going to be the end of the U.S. It will be our Achilles heel should our government decide to annex it. Okay. Um, NATO will not not disband. If it happens, it will effectively the U.S. will be expelled from NATO. But NATO is not the only entity, a mutual defense entity that Denmark is part of. Denmark is also part of the European Union Mutual Defense Pact, which throws a number of more countries with more military and more might behind it. Now, alone, the European Union, a lot also, with other NATO countries, they wouldn't, they don't have the ability to defeat the U.S. military head to head, but they have the ability to inflict a severe wound. Okay, and this is where the danger is. First off, NATO ally Canada, directly to our north, massive unpatrolled border, basically. I mean, I'm not saying there's no security on the border to the north, but it's a lot less than the border to the south. Um, so that's one big concern. Second, a massive strike could cripple the U.S. for a while. They could economically cripple us, and they could militarily wound us. Something along the lines of a Pearl Harbor type deal, where, you know, sure, the Pacific Fleet wasn't completely obliterated, but it was crippled and weakened. Um, they they could inflict such a wound that the other nations with grievance with the United States, and there are many, would sense the blood in the water, and the sharks would come a swimming, and it would be a feeding frenzy. There's less countries with no grievance than there are with grievance against the United States. The illusion of absolute American power, the impenetrable fortress, the national moat, so to speak, because two oceans. It's an illusion. First, the second we betray our allies, we show we can't be trusted. So no one will trust us. And second, the grievances again. I could see everybody wanting to get their piece at the table. And we're the supper. So, one thing I'll say to those of you who do support the regime in charge of the United States government, is it worth it? Is losing your nation worth it? But what I'll also ask, are you ready? And I'm going to tell you that when the bombs start falling, when the bullets start flying, when you get hungry and cold and scared, when you're homeless because your house has been bombed out or burned down, you're going to care a lot less about someone else's nationality. You're going to care a lot less about someone's gender identity. You're going to care a lot less about what your neighbor is doing, because you're just going to be scrambling to survive. Is owning the libs worth it? Is it really? You see, this isn't going to be as well a holdout like Germany was. There's more people against the government. Since the election results proved it. The Trump administration won by about a third of the electorate, less than a third of the electorate. And it was not a landslide. It was close. 76.8% to what? 74.5%. That sounds like a landslide. It's not. More people did not vote than voted for either candidate individually. To those of you who would push people aside and say, I'll never forgive you for not voting, grow up. Grow up. You're going to sit here and stand on a moral high ground that's on top of a bunch of dead bodies and tell people who voted with their conscience there was no choice. There was no choice. And you're going to make assumptions about my vote, but I don't talk about my vote. It's between me and the ballot box. So, nonetheless, grow up. Because we're not far from losing our nation. To those of you who think that the Trump administration is going to maintain power, there's no way. The resistance has already formed. Everyone out there protesting in the streets, and there's a lot. A lot. There's a few catalyst moments that have happened. There's a lot of people who do not like what's going on. And when this becomes a world war and supply chains are cut and supply lines are cut and people start getting hungry, do you think the resistance isn't going to start, asking for help from the EU, from quite possibly the AU, quite possibly the UN, the many political entities around the world who have the international authority and ability to help and supply? There will be an American resistance like the French resistance in World War II. This is going to be France of World War II, not Germany. The people are not going to stand by and hold out. There will be some, but there will be mass defections. And at the end, the United States is going to be carved up into administrative regions run by the various world allies. And what do we do then? We sit at the whim of others when we could just unfuck ourselves today. It's not too late until it's too late. You're not going to be punished for looking outside of the box. Let's choose peace before the only choice is conflict.